Okay. Are we still recording? I kind of
You're
screwed
recording
that up. All right, nice. Well, thanks for coming back, Isaiah. It's great timing to kind of bring you back. We're looking into the new year, so just wanted to reach out and say, hey, how can we help out our clients prepare for 2026? So I'll kind of, we'll start with a quick introduction just to reintroduce yourself. So if you can tell me who you are and the company you're working with.
So I'm Isaiah. I work with Cummings and Company Realtors. It's buyer specialist, selling specialist, just full-time real estate agent out here looking to help people reach their home ownership goals. So
Awesome, awesome. So we're here today to talk about how to get ready for 2026 and ultimately taking the right steps because, as I like to say, preparation makes this process smooth and easier. Okay, so that's what we wanted to go over today. Hopefully, we can help out some clients out there who are looking into 2026, what things to get ready for. So, just starting off on your search for. I mean, I know you purchased a home before. How long did you start prepping for the house before you bought it?
um, it feels like forever ago. It was. It started with the conversation with my wife at the time. We were married at that time. So it started with that conversation maybe a year before. So we started having the conversation of we do want to own a house, and then maybe 8 months of planning of how we're gonna save up and get things done, and then contacted a realtor, and everything's history after that. So
Yeah, 8 months. I mean, I completely get it. I mean, setting a budget, meeting your credit goals, everything that is ultimately on your getting readiness, not necessarily the team involved. The team involved is usually like the realtor and the lender side.
right, yeah, it was more like we had some things we had to work on, so we spent a little bit of extra time, so that way once we reached out to a realtor and we got pre-approval, everything was just like the easiest thing that we could do. So
Nice.
yeah.
So you're smart. That's what I call
Yeah.
like my favorite type of clients. They come ready. They know what they want. Everything is pretty much in order, and they've understood and done a little bit of their research. But nevertheless, we're here to help out, and that's why we're putting together this video. So some of the things that we're going to talk about is credit, savings, the difference between being pre-qualified, being pre-approved, and ultimately helping set up your search. But just to let you know, if you're out searching for a home, and I'm sure you tell your clients this, we want to talk to you a year, maybe 6 months before you really start, or even longer than that. We're happy to have that conversation to make sure you get the right education and understand what the process is fully going to entail. So kind of just talking about setting the foundation, when somebody first reaches out to you, how's a great way to help somebody plan for 2026? What's some of the things that you discuss?
So if it's someone reaching out to me today, it's the end of October. They're telling me they want to purchase in 2026. First thing I want them to do is I want them to talk with a lender, so that way they can look into their credit history, past going through your Credit Karma or Equifax app or whatever app you're looking at, because that's not their true score, and a lot of people don't know that. So have them talk with a lender, see if there's anything on their credit that they'll need to work on, because my biggest fear for someone is they, oh, I'm so ready. It's the end of October. By January 1st, I'll be in a new house and I'm so excited. And then they go to get pre approved, and you have a couple dings on your credit to where it's like, oh, I maybe if I knew about it, I could have prepared for it a couple months. And so, what I would suggest is get in contact with your lender. There's a handsome gentleman sitting across from me who you could call. um, you know, have a good conversation with Jeremiah here, or your lender, whoever's watching this. Just go through everything, be as transparent as you can be. There's no reason to hiding anything, because it will eventually come to light, and it can impact your ability to get the home that you really loved. So That's the first step I suggest. After that, I sit down with them. I want to hear, where are you working? Where's your family at? If you have a spouse, where's their family at? Where are they working? Because you don't want to have a house that's so inconvenient to live in. You know, you have kids, you got to go to schools, daycares, commutes to work can be annoying to some people. Some people just want to, some people don't mind. Some people are like, I will drive an hour and a half every day to work. Other people are like, I got 30 minutes in the car. So that's why I have that conversation with people. So that way I can get an idea of where I'm going to start looking for this person. And then we go on from there. It'll be 2026 now. They're getting ready to move.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to look at some houses. We see a couple and get their feedback, their honest feedback. I tell them, be as honest as you can be. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I'm not the one selling the house. I'm the one helping you find your home. So, you know, I just want you to be as honest as you can be for the house. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Be as honest as you can be for the homes that we've seen.
Yeah.
And then we can work our way into finding that perfect place for you.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love the foundation side to it. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, you're going to be working with both of us. You know, you find the home. What I do is I find the loan. So, you know, you kind of discussed a little bit of what the realtor does. Now, for what the lending side does, you know, the quick foundation points, just, you know, of course, we want you to fill out an application. That's the biggest thing. That's how we're really going to decide, you know, or find out actually where you're qualifying for. And we want you to do this well ahead of time. But just to touch on like an application point, you know, what we're looking for is ultimately, to keep it simple, 3 check boxes. You know, we want to look at, you know, are you working? Have you been working? How long? We want to look at credit and see where your credit situation is. And then at the same time, we want to look at down payment. Okay. And all of those pieces, you know, when we're looking towards income, we're looking at a 2-year time frame. So if you don't have that 2-year time frame, it could be less in certain situations, but we want to find out how we meet that goal. We want to find out how we meet the credit side and the down payment side, and we'll discuss that. But the biggest thing that I can say, let's kind of diving into each specific thing. So credit, okay? As we mentioned, we want to talk a six months to a year out. And the reason for that is you could have things like collections account. You could have a situation where you're great. You know, there's certain people out there that don't want credit cards, don't want anything like that, but their score might be non-existent because they never applied for anything. They want to buy a house. You know, we got to start out that process, and that can take 6 months to a year to get going. And then at the same time, you might have somebody who has a couple things on their credit, and maybe it's a high balance on a credit card, and maybe they also have another installment loan that they're about to pay off in about a year from now. And the last thing we want is, you know, we get you to, you know, ultimately you walk into a home and you find that you love it and you can't actually afford it because you didn't take these steps ahead of time.
Right.
You know, so let's kind of like dive into credit. Ultimately, if you are looking to improve your credit, okay, so some of the tips that I pass along to my clients is you want to try to have a balance about 20 to 30% of what your high credit limit is. So if you have a $100 credit card with a $100 limit, you want to try to keep your balance about $20 or to $30. Okay, anything above that, it might just slightly hurt you. So that's one thing that we want to say. And at the same time, if you have anything that is coming up that, you know, you can't make a payment on, you know, reach out to that creditor. You know, if you're struggling to make payments, and, you know, right now during this time, the government shut down. There's a lot of furloughed government workers out there. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do proactively before you miss that payment, that it won't hurt you for the long run. So if you're looking at a credit lateness, that can last 7 years. And, you know, I don't think the government's going to be shut down for the next 7. So we
Fingers crossed.
So, I mean, the main thing that we want to try to do is put this plan in place, especially for people that just don't know, because the worst thing that you can do is not know and just think that there's no help out there. We want you to reach out to us to ask for help. So that's really kind of the setting, the foundation is finding out what is available to you in this current market conditions that we have. Okay. So let's kind of, you know, as I mentioned, you know, there's 3 check boxes. We have the employment side, we have the credit side, and we have the down payment side. So let's talk about budgeting and setting goals. Okay, so when you're talking with your clients, what's the budgeting conversations that you have for them?
So when I'm meeting with someone who's interested in buying, I have a presentation that I give to them, and in that presentation, we have a worksheet that unique to our office. We give them a rough estimate of how to budget for your down payment. So we roughly estimate you want to save about 10% of the price of the home, so that way we could put it down payment. And we give you a calculator and little rough numbers to go with. And then we also turn from doing the down payment, we also say there will be closing costs, which we estimate roughly about 4.5% to save up just for closing costs. Because a lot of people don't know buying a house is not just, oh, that's a $300,000 house. I got $300,000. No, it's a little bit more that goes into getting the house. So, a lot of paperwork gets done, and that goes, your closing cost goes to help get that paperwork done in the background. So
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things. When I send out cost estimates to my clients, they're like, "You're charging me this much?" I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, it's actually not me." You have things like an appraisal that's going to take place. That's a third party. You have things like title work that are going to get done. And honestly, the biggest one from what I've seen is wherever you're purchasing, either it be, there's going to be city or county taxes that are really going to come, and even state on top of that when it comes to recording the new mortgage, the new deed, you own the title. That's where a lot of these things are coming in. So that's a great point that you mentioned. You want to save a little bit on the side, but also touching on that, when we're talking about budget, okay, if you have a situation where down payment might be a struggle, we don't want you to think that that's absolutely something that you have. We want you to have a conversation with us because in some cases, for instance, we partner with the Maryland Mortgage Program, also Live Baltimore, that offer these incentivized programs that you can get up to, in some cases, 5%. With the Maryland Mortgage Program, they actually, in some cases, go up to 6%. Depending upon your situation of whatever your loan amount's going to be. So that can cover the down payment, that can cover the closing cost. But we want you to, in some cases, like for instance with Live Baltimore, we need you to do education before you put an offer in. And that sometimes can take a little bit of time out of your day. You need to go to a seminar or an online class in order to do the first part. And then you got to do a one-on-one in order just to be eligible to get some of these grants and down payment assistance. So, when we're talking about budgeting, yes, we want you to have that money set up, of course, just in case you can't qualify for those. But there's also other alternatives out there through great programs that the city's offering, that the state's offering that can help alleviate that. But you probably wouldn't know about that unless you give us a go.
Exactly. That's the most important part. I just had a meeting over the weekend with a young couple. They're looking to move in by February, and I said, this is the perfect time for you to have this conversation with me. So that way, I can help you out, because if there's anything that you are aware of, their big issue was down payment. They didn't know what to do, and I was like, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I can connect you with someone, and there are a lot of down payment assistance programs throughout depending on which area you guys want to move to. Is different for if you want to be in the city or the county, but there's a lot of options and opportunity out there. We have the trolley tour here in Baltimore. You go and see the neighborhoods. They do a very nice tour of the neighborhoods around Baltimore, and sometimes you get put into a lottery. Sometimes I've heard everyone who attended gets paid out. So, all you have to do is just let us know. Be transparent with us, and we could help you with whatever we can find.
Yeah,
So.
and that trolley tour, touching on that, it's $5,000, and I don't know about a lot of people who try to win the lottery. I try to win the lottery myself. Like, that is probably going to be like the highest percentage lottery in terms of winning. So, I mean, if that's something that you're interested in getting, a good chunk of change that you can apply to your house, like, reach out to us. We can get you in contact with those partners to ultimately get you money to purchase your house. So, we talked about the budgeting piece. What I wanted to discuss with you is ultimately some common misconceptions that we have in the industry, which is between something called a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Okay, so let's say I come up to you and I have something called a pre-qualification. Are you going to let me put an offer in on a house?
No. So your pre-qualification is not worth the paper it's printed on. I want you to get pre-approved so that way we know that there's actual backing to what you're able to purchase. So when you see a house, I want to put an offer on it, and you give me a pre-qualification letter, we got to go back to step one now. So like,
No, that's a great point. I mean, really, the differences between it is if you call me up and you say, "Hey, I'm making $200,000. I got $20,000 in the bank, and my credit is 800." I go, "Guess what? You're pre-qualified." Now, have you ever tried to apply for a loan? You realize that we need to verify that information. Okay, so ultimately, that's what the pre-approval is. We're verifying that. And think about this: if you're selling your house and somebody's telling you all this, you're like, I don't know if I really believe it.
Right, yeah,
Why
it's
don't you
like-
show me that approval?
just a little fishy here. Why ain't tell me all this?
So ultimately, that's really what we kind of want our clients to do. We want you to get pre-approved, not necessarily pre-qualified, because that shows that you're serious, you've done your homework, and ultimately now your agent's going to be able to put that together for you.
Right. Yes. So, no, only pre-approvals, no pre-qualified. I actually had a client we didn't actually end up finding a house for because some other things were going on, but she had came to me a few months ago. She had 28 days to find a new place, and she said, I'm already pre-approved. So I got her connected with another lending partner, and just to compare rates to her current pre-approval, and come to find out it was not pre-approved, it was pre-qualified. And that just upset her to the point where she no longer wanted to continue to search for a home, I should say. She wanted to just find an apartment at that point. And in 28 days, we didn't have much time to buy a house, but it was just an example of pre-qualification is not worth anything. We got to start all over again, and your 28-day window just shortened even more. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to get pre-approved. And one of the things that I'll advocate for is you want to get pre-approved with a local lender, okay? Because there's a lot of companies out there as well that will quickly put together a pre-approval, and it's not going to give you the best offer in other words, it'll make your job a little bit harder. I like to call it, if you see a pre-approval and it's got this good old PRMI on it, it's your golden ticket into making sure that you have the best secure offer. I've heard agents, when we submit these offers, we're giving them a call, and they're like, hey, your primary residential mortgage, that's a great stamp. I know that this deal will get done. And ultimately, that's the reputation that we have here in Baltimore and Maryland, and we want to make sure that if you're going to be submitting offers, you're doing it with a golden ticket, as we like to call it, because we really do take those extra steps to make sure that you're going to get qualified. And I think that's a great way to kind of end on the pre-approval and pre-qualification side. So now let's talk about finding the right fit. So we have somebody who has been pre-approved, okay, and ultimately we have that budget set up. We understand what they can afford. Now, talking about finding the right fit, how are you going to help your client find that right home?
This is my favorite part. So I love the research part of finding homes for a person. Just finding the right fit starts with that conversation that we had when we initially met. Where do you work? Where's your family? Where's your spouse family? Where's their place of business? And what are you looking for your kids? Now, as a real estate agent, I can't tell you that this area here is where you want to go to for good schools, or this is where you want to go for there's certain things I can't tell you, but we do provide resources to where you can do that research on your own, and you can let me know if this area that I have us looking in is going to be perfect for you or not. But my favorite part is after having all the information of where your family's at, what you're looking for, I'm staying up to like 11 p.m., 12 a.m. sometimes. I'm up searching houses. I put together a big spreadsheet. I love Excel. So, but I put together a big spreadsheet, compare homes, go back to my notes, compare what this client is looking for, and then we'll agree to a day to where if you can give me a full day, we can see a lot more homes. But if you only have like a 3 hour window, that's fine too. But we'll have a day, we'll go out. I have a program where if I want to see 10 houses, it'll give me the best layout on how to get to the 10 houses without going from A, Z, D, F, and all over the alphabet. So, you know, we get there, we check out everything. I'm going to ask you for your honest opinion. We're going to find, and not everything happens in that first day. There are some cases where you go out and the very first house that you see, I love it. I want to put an offer on it. Perfect. I don't mind doing that. I have a client, we actually share a client, that she is worried that, or initially she was worried that I don't want to put in an offer on the first house that I see. And I had to tell her that it's not about you put in on the first thing that you've seen because your friend or your cousin or whoever told you don't do that. But if you really like this house and you take the gamble of going to find something else better or even similar to that, if you don't find it, you come back and that house is already gone. Someone else, they saw it, they liked it, they put in their offer. So, you know, that's why I want your honest opinion so that way we can quickly get to putting in an offer if this is something that you truly like. So I don't want you to miss out on your dream house. That's not what I'm in the business for. I want you to find the house that you like and be ready to move in the next 30 days. So, you know.
No, and that's a completely valid thing. And, you know, it's not necessarily that we want to get you into the property right away and be done with it. You know, we're still in contact with our clients throughout, you know, their whole entire home ownership journey. And the reason that we try to look for situations where we find something quickly for you is because, for one, we don't want to just be sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, find a property, go look for something. There's so much out there on the market right now that's great. And another thing that we're trying to combat for for our clients is just appreciation, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah.
Because in the reality, you know, 6 months from now, over the past 5 years, you know, we're seeing 6% on average in Baltimore City, for instance, like appreciation. So it's like the longer we wait, if we wait, you know, 6 more months, you know, we could be looking at 3% higher of a house. You know, that's insane to think about. Like, it's more expensive in that range.
We have this saying, when's the best time to buy a house? It was yesterday. So the second best time is right now. But I mean, sometimes that doesn't help with certain people in certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, we want to help you as soon as you like a house. We want you to put that offer in so that way you don't either A, miss it, or B, like you said, price will go up. And then who knows, like we have to restart all over again, get pre-approved once more,
Mm-hmm.
and keep going. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you know, a hard situation for a lot of people. I mean, you're not buying a house every day, but, you know, we want you to trust us. You know, we want you to understand, you know, for most people out there buying right now, it's not their forever home. You know, it's going to be your stepping stone to that forever home, or maybe even, you know, you have a couple homes in between that, right? So, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, finding the right fit, you know, we're here to be that expert in your corner to help you make sure that you're making the right decisions. So, you know, kind of looking to wrap up, you know, when we talk about creating your action plan, you know, we look towards like a quick 5-step process. First, we want to, you know, review your situation with both your realtor and also your lender. And we really want to make sure that your credit situation is good and your budget is getting set up. You know, second, we want to build, you know, some great savings habits, some great credit practices, because the last thing we want you to do is we have a rock star conversation. We know that you're ready, and then all of a sudden, you know, you kind of fall off the wagon where, you know, you're missing payments or you're missing your savings goals. You know, the third thing, you know, we want to create that personalized plan for you. And ultimately, as we have that fully set up, you know, Isaiah's sending you properties that is perfectly set up to what you want, where you're looking, everything on that side. And for, then we're going to be exploring those neighborhoods. We want to make sure that you are in there looking for ultimately your right, your right property. But as you mentioned, we want to get you in that home to start seeing what you like and what you don't like, right?
Right.
And then, of course, then we're just going to find out our right buying window, our right time frame on that side. So that's a quick, easy 5 steps for kind of helping set up like the first 5 plans. And as I like to say, if you want to plan in the beginning, it's going to make sure that your transaction is smoother, less stressful, and honestly, you're going to get what you want more often than not, unless, the other side of it.
Yeah, it does take just a little bit of planning in the beginning on the front half of things will go a long way throughout the rest of this, because then you can, like you said, this may not even be your forever home. Your little bit of planning to help you with your first step into home ownership can get you prepared, and keeping that transparency with us as an agent and a lender, can get you prepared to you having that mansion in the hills somewhere, just do yourself the favor. Do yourself the favor. Do yourself the favor, and definitely plan a little bit on the front half, so that way you can kick your feet up on the back half.
Yep. Hey, your dream home happens through preparation. So that's what we're here to do. Awesome. So, Isaiah, any great ways that a client can reach out to you to get in contact to start this preparation?
So if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram. I am Jackson MD Realtor. That's JACKSON MD Realtor. You can also give a call to me. My phone number, can I do that on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my phone number is 443-903-9293. Or even send me an email, Isaiah, ISAIAH, at marylandhomes.pro.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Ooh.